Happy Father's Day, everybody. So, I know by the time I finish uploading this video, Father's Day is pretty much over for majority part of the world. But since I live in the West Coast, Father's Day is still a thing right now, and we still got roughly about 3.5 hours to finish celebrating Father's Day before we move on into Monday. But that being said, in terms of this Father's Day weekend, I'm going to do another News of the Week episode. And once again, for the past couple of days, we had a couple of transfer rumors. And we have more news in terms of the whole COVID-19 situation. And there is definitely a little bit concern right now in terms of that situation, where there's been multiple news reported that COVID-19 cases continue to spike in the Orlando area and in Florida. In fact, I have heard a source saying that yesterday there was a record amount of cases in Orange County in the Orlando area where the tournament is going to be taking place, and there was 360 cases of that. And knowing the fact that we continue to hear more news about how there's more coronavirus cases than ever before in these past couple of days down in Orlando, I won't be surprised if the league is going to have to potentially make a decision of whether or not if they are going to actually restart the season there, or they might actually push it back a little bit. I mean, I guess right now, as of now, I haven't heard any news of whether or not if that is going to be the case. But again, I won't be surprised if that is the case. If the league thinks that because of these cases are really continue to spike, they don't really want to risk it and restart the season, and that some of these players might get infected by this virus. Now, there are a couple of players that did get infected by this virus and did get tested positive for this virus in the last couple of days. Two unnamed Atlanta United player and an Inter Miami player have now tested positive for COVID-19, which now brings the total up to 5 players that have been tested in MLS. And again, that number is just going to continue to rise as we get closer to the tournament, and I won't be surprised during the tournament we are going to get a couple of players that's going to be tested positive for coronavirus. And again, I haven't heard any news of what exactly the league plan is going to with those players that might get tested positive by the virus. Are they going to automatically be unavailable for the tournament and that they have to instantly go into a 14-day quarantine? I have no idea if that is going to be the case. Now, moving away from the whole COVID-19 cases and talking about transfer rumors that has happened in the last couple of days, DC United and Columbus Crew are both linked with Cruz Azul striker Santiago Jimenez, and it seemed like both of these teams really wants to get him because from what I heard, he's a very talented young Argentine striker down in Cruz Azul, and that, DC United and Columbus Crew, both of these teams are desperate in terms of looking for a striker, and you could say that DC might be even more desperate because they only have one striker in their team, and that if Ola Kamara does went down, they basically are doomed in terms of that position. So we'll see whether or not if they are going to potentially get him, and there's really no rumors in terms of how much each of these teams will have to pay to Cruz Azul in order to get this young talented Argentine striker that is Santiago Jimenez. Now, the Red Bulls have also linked with a striker of their own, and that they are actually report to get Peterborough striker Ivan Toney, although Peterborough have declined the transfer offer, and the Red Bulls actually tried to offer Peterborough about $4 million to get Ivan Toney, but apparently they said no to that offer. And it's kind of interesting that the Red Bulls are decided to pay that much money for a guy that is playing in League One, although I have heard people are saying that he is a very talented player in League One and that he actually scored around 20 plus goal in his 30 plus appearance last season, and that there's already a lot of clubs that is trying to get this young talented player down in League One. But for the Red Bulls, if they are going to trying to get him, they definitely might have to keep putting that transfer offer a little bit bigger. But that being said, there's also a bit of a risk of the fact that yes, he might be the real deal in League One, but does that kind of performance that he has in League One is going to reflect it into MLS? And we know that there has been transfer that teams have definitely tried to do by getting these talented League One players to come to MLS, and it did not work out whatsoever. And I'm looking at you, Colorado, of what you did a couple of years back by bringing a couple of these League One player, and it did not work out whatsoever. So it'd be interesting to see if the Red Bulls are going to continue to chase to get him. I mean, the Red Bulls is another team that are desperately looking for a striker ever since BWP is no longer with the Red Bulls and they're left with just Brian White as their main striker. They desperately need some backup help and need some more help in terms of that position too. Now, Leandro Gonzalo Perez is report to return to MLS and sign with Inter Miami. Obviously, Inter Miami has the top allocation order, so they technically could get LGP back into MLS without actually have to pay other teams that might be near the top of the allocation order in terms of trying to get there to get him. And I think this will be a decent kind of signing for Inter Miami, especially knowing the fact that, yes, I know LGP is kind of a player that could be a little bit of a hothead when he's on the pitch, and he tends to pick up some silly yellow cards and occasionally may pick up red cards too. But I thought he was a very decent defender with Atlanta United, and if Inter Miami is going to get him, they will have two decent veteran defender with Roman Torres and Gonzalo Perez there. I mean, imagine LGP and Torres as your center back partnership. That is definitely not a bad center back partnership at all for your team. So I won't be surprised if Inter Miami is going to get him. And for once, I think this signing might be one of the more realistic kind of signing that they are rumored, unlike all these kind of European superstar players that they've been rumored to get in the next couple of years, and that is something that I have no idea if that is going to be the case in a couple of years, or the fact that that's just them trying to give hope to their fans that eventually things are going to improve and eventually they're going to get their first point in MLS. Now, FC Cincinnati have extended Jurgen Locadia loan to the end of the season. This is not a big surprise because Jurgen Locadia has repeatedly said that he wants to stay with FC Cincinnati, and it seemed like FC Cincinnati heard that message, and now they, of course, are going to extend his loan till the end of the season. I mean, he got off to a great start in MLS, in his FC Cincinnati career and his MLS career by scoring a goal against the Red Bulls, but it'll be interesting to see whether or not if he can continue to be a goal scorer for this team, and that whether or not once this tournament is going to begin, we're going to see whether or not if FC Cincinnati make the right choice by bringing him in as their lethal goal scorer of the team. Now, West Ham defender Winston Reid has reported to head back to Sporting KC to resume his loan, and West Ham obviously decided to give SKC Winston Reid for loan, but there was an interesting kind of clause in that loan deal where they can actually recall him back from the team before the loan actually ended. And surprisingly, despite the fact that West Ham this season have been battling relegation in the Premier League, they're not actually recalling one of their most trusted defender, and they elected to just kind of let him head back to SKC. So that's kind of an interesting situation that they're in, but I guess if you're SKC, you will definitely take that, consider you definitely need some defensive help too. Like this team, I think overall when you look at this team could definitely be a team that could be a dark horse heading into this MLS is back tournament and could potentially win the whole thing. The only reason why they are a dark horse and not really a team that many people think that are favorites of winning this tournament is that the defense is still a bit of an issue. Well, if you add Winston Reid, and you hope that maybe he can of course stay healthy because he's another guy that tends to be very injury prone, but if he is able to stay healthy throughout the tournament, then I definitely can see SKC could make a big run in this tournament and could potentially rise themselves from being kind of a dark horse team to being a team that could be a favorites heading into this MLS is back tournament. And that's without Felipe Gutierrez that they just lost a couple of weeks back due to a knee surgery, and that they won't have him for the remaining of the season. And finally, Austin FC will be the first stadium, or I should say Austin FC Stadium will be the first stadium to have RGB LED lights in the entire stadium. No idea how that is actually going to look, but that sounds like a very cool thing, and that I think once the season is back, and if there's actually going to be once they come into the league next season, and once that stadium is finished building, I can't wait to see how the effect of them having like these RGB LED light in the entire stadium looks. I mean, when you hear these kind of news, you can instantly think about how all these PC gamers tend to have like an RGB LED lights in their computer case. Well, now we're actually going to see a team that have their entire stadium that will have this effect, and it will be very interesting to see how it looks, and if it's going to be as good as what I've seen with some of these PC gamers that have like an RGB LED computer case at their home. But either way, there you have it. That is pretty much it for the news of the week. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think of this video, and if there's any other news that I didn't mention on the board, let me know in the comments below. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I of course will see you guys next time.